Manavya Damadana Chandana Pusanzo Bangala, Churizuma Sawaki, Sumashizu, Mamma Zavajor, Shishakara, Kerbi, Yezava, General. Gavin Mogunas and the Bago, Yurum Sounds of Bonnet, Zola Magamaba, Young Chile, which is a road, the around the government, to young around. Mother Namaruza, Dr. Lager, Usondo, Yamuru, that in the Nima Nibasan and Nima that Suju Nima Jeman with the Charlie Ore and Delia Bebe Nabaling Sonolia Nadu Delishai.
Today is the second and last day of the teaching, so I would like to wish all of you who have come good morning.
Dene Tayandi Dorsim di tea di ma dismandun di Sasamare. Tea dismandun charging it to dreaming of Yedi Dorsim tea dismandun. And then Kazanga trip Mirim Shuai.
I need to read the text of the Torch of True Meaning, otherwise we will not finish the instructions on Vajrasattva. So I will now read the text and then we will continue the discussion of the visualization from yesterday.
Da Deliam Da Kazan Shunan Sire Da Dele Television to choose some Gawa, said the Zebazan, Timbe, Kujo Gudu Yong Shubala, the deep joint. So and up Togang or Sabian Ishiki, Guru Tamzekan, Machon, Lubitsuki, Xavier Tewan, Katala, Ranga Juvan shoot, set up Toma Mevan Sabi, Tamzing Yamjaso, Dig Deep Tamze, Tugutan, Sulgu, Netamze, Nara Chusir. Duan Tamji, Simbuji, Jingi number, Duje Sharada Jeba, Chune Barmacheva, Wambu Gone, Pabibugan Teji, Wanji Sergis Tim.
Continuing from about a third way of the way down, page 48. Light radiates out from the home, inviting the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the 10 directions and 3 times to dissolve into the home and mantra. Think that Vajrasattva becomes the combined essence of all the jewels. Supplicate him to purify your misdeeds and obscurations. Think that this causes wisdom nectar to flow from the seed syllable and mantra garland at his heart. It fills his entire body and, as if overflowing, descends in a white stream from the big toe of his right foot and enters you through the crown of your head. Like a river carrying away detritus, it flushes out through your orifices and pores all the misdeeds and obscurations you have accumulated from beginningless lifetimes, such as breakages and violations of samaya in the form of soot and sludge, all illnesses in the form of pus, blood, and lymph, and all duns in the form of parasite and filth, along with your physical flesh and blood. These dissolve into the powerful golden earth.
Temujaden Gombodaneso, Sendip the Shexi Jeb, Lama Dojisama Tugi, Shen Zumba de Rigi Buki did Nidon Tam the duty in the Taba Inoshe, Sungu Uyuns and the Vedushu, the Ranatim, Dojisem, Kusun to the Ranga Lunga is Emedu Samla, Mimi Warsha.
Your body is filled with pure wisdom nectar, and the excess overflows and touches Vajrasattva's foot. Visualize this extremely clearly again and again. As it is said, if you are distracted by something else, reciting for eons will bear no fruit. Thus, without even a moment's distraction, recite the 100-syllable and 6-syllable mantras at a moderate pace, clearly, correctly, and sonorously. At the end, join your palms and recite the words of the supplication and confession, protector out of ignorant delusion. Guru Vajrasattva is pleased and reassures you, saying, child of noble family, all of your misdeeds, obscurations, wrongs, and transgressions are purified from today onwards. He then melts into light and dissolves into you. Think that Vajrasattva's body, speech, and mind become inseparable from your own body, speech, and mind, and rest without reference point.
튠조나 개왕오 디버타베 다 슌두세 케버리다 류양 니충 감데 리버세 냠도 탈돌 기와서 중어서.
If it is the end of the session, dedicate the merit. The signs of having purified misdeeds are explained in the texts. Some particular ones include your body becoming light and needing little sleep, experiencing good health and a clear mind, having some minor experiences in realization, and so forth.
다 디제레야만 정거를 무책이 지다 가서 도심 이 디버샤원디 지 고된르지 마송고 알아.
Following this, Jamgon Kongtrul discusses the general subject of confessing the misdeeds and the Vajrasattva practice.
디 고된에 지르디바 방그 개와 주부 디 방랑 시시시네 시야나 돈바는 조베상기 녀지 대송의 이전에 라는 제바디 콩베나 튜닝 예바이 레기디 강인 인로 규이튜나 총양 지부튜나 폐지 디변 지부 예선의 개변 지부 된로 소소죠 랑게 제벨레 취미사 마제벨레다 미체 대양 되샤시라 띠무순이 군내람베 레 룽아도 무슨 통하는 이게 템반네 이게래 무슨 남규 무슨 마템반이 이게래 무슨 남규 템반은 룽아가 레 삼제 용어도 인적에 지게도 지게 나부로 줘야지 이니 두기 자와이 셰송 디벨레텔라 참행아 대단냐왕아 미게워주 지실로게도 잡아서다 돈바송단 게외 니동 돈바송단 게외 니동 랑게 기버다 셴라 제주보다 제발을 예수 이란 때바 제바서 너나 라르 남기 미시 미소로와 개와 통면에 사베 디동 주 잠을 쿠르드 코르에 띵 다다 융아 이순기 삼주 줄세 폐실 두순 코네 왕게 딕집 카네도 사바이 짱레도 디 예베 쳔디야 타미군기 차신무 주샤망보당 허송의 예르시 둥기기 라다 교응에베 제도취 레셀의 디베 팁기 법을 짜마시 밀러명에 받나서 미 라야 로미디 치행에 받아 친해 자본 중 치외스 내주 직자 동에다 파도량 취습시 치외어도야 디글레 친진 충송다 튀비 년송숨기 동에 퇴차了유리원유 용 남식 토리수 깨나야 세통 내마오 니메도 자교다오 유라 로니에다 니죽소 중.
As for the meaning of the practice, we must give up wrongdoing and accomplish virtue. Only the perfect Buddha knew correctly what to abandon and what to adopt and advised others about it. Believing his words and putting them into practice is internalizing their essential meaning. Whether an action is virtuous or a misdeed, even if it is small at the time of its cause, its effect increases greatly at the time of the result. The results of misdeeds manifest as the lower realms, and the results of virtues as the higher realms. The actions you have done will not go to waste, and you will not experience karma you have not committed. Actions that are motivated by desire, aversion, or ignorance, but not actually physically or verbally expressed, are mental actions. Those actually expressed are actions of body and speech. The mind must precede all actions, so it is said, because it makes the world go dark, the mind is the root of poison. Misdeeds include the 5 heinous deeds, the 5 near heinous deeds, the 10 non-virtues, the 4 weighty actions, the 8 perversions, and so forth, along with downfalls that are violations of the 3 types of vows, whether you have done them yourself, encouraged others to do them, or rejoiced at and praised them. In brief, we carry the burden of a mountain of misdeeds and downfalls that we do not know about or feel, but have accumulated in beginningless lifetimes. On top of that, almost all our present intentions and actions of body, speech, and mind just heap on additional misdeeds and obscurations, due solely to the 3 poisons. Because of these wrongs, we are cursed and slandered by the gods and humans in this life. Things often go wrong or don't work out. Our guardian deities forsake us, and duns and obstructive spirits take advantage of this. We are thrust into the ranks of the wretched. Our misdeeds cast a shadow on everything, and we are connected to, bringing bad luck. We have various bad dreams and are unhappy. Fatal accidents and severe mortal illnesses occur. At the time of death, there is intense agony, fear, and suffering, and there is intense confusion in the bardo. And after death, we will experience for a long time the agonizing suffering of the 3 lower realms in accord with the severity of our wrongdoing. Even if at some point we are born in the high realms, we will have short lives and ill health. Though you are innocent, enemies and lawsuits will appear, and there will be crop failures, epidemics, and war in your country.
Gyudhungi ribu digbala gashi dunge gyumichel pe mijak kamer rangla penye bashi na digba chagome tene ma inde yana jandunyen yong yana nolong junyen da yana togyo so gi chiri tenam chizam zomya ranchiwe che pemba dindu zomya me nyenda long ju puchung ma so tajime se kamji 그 류가 해와면 랑치부르 년송도 캠베스 디버 체적인 제부 동해의 현라 고샤 제사메 랑코네 용도 장년도 규로하다 년 장년도 규로하다 년 저우르 규바야 측메 디버 제표반데 류기신 되긴 뇨 렌지 미시버 첨부 인도게 당아 님이 나지게 마제만디 마네 마체 사와시게 마중 다네 류소 남지 참에베 디버정 랑갑게 이유나 중세경 제랑 마중어 치쇼르제 나랑 년송 동에 진짜쇼나 셰소 랑가랑라 텐데 도미수 로마 대화를 공개
As the causally compatible result, you will enjoy wickedness and your suffering will increase unceasingly. It is not so that you must do wrongs that are unavoidable and will definitely benefit you, whether for the sake of subduing enemies or protecting friends, for the sake of wealth, possessions, or reputation, or for the sake of food, clothing, and so forth. No matter how much you have, those will not benefit you even a sesame seed's worth at the time of death. Forget about reputation, possessions, children, spouses, and so forth. You will be powerless to take with you even a single morsel of food or a set of clothes. Alone you will wander to the lower realms. At that time there will be no one with whom you can share the suffering that results from your misdeeds. You alone will experience it. It is not hard for an enemy to change into a friend or a friend into an enemy. So daring to commit wrongs is to be caught by the Maras and crazed by duns. It is great stupidity and ignorance. But up to now we have not recalled even a single drawback and had never said, I can't let myself do this, I shall not. Think to yourself, I could die at any time. Will I even have time to purify my misdeeds? If I die without purifying any of them, what suffering will occur to me in the lower realms, and so forth? Drive yourself to blame. You must drive yourself to shame. You must meditate until you cannot sit still and are disconsolate.
다 더서 전다다면로 다 가장 미림 최슈이
That is enough for now. We will continue with the visualization.
다 드네 가자디 özür karşıya özür durduruçe dünya çizudi hüsün bare 다 디젤이야 도지스베게 다 셰샤 용수조바 드네지 게야요.
Yesterday, we discussed how the light radiates and performs the two benefits. Following this, there is the discussion of the complete visualization of Vajrasattva.
다 외ser 조네 주두단 두차와다 냠도 남산 디 뉴번도 되게 아니 도지 홍대제바 도지시 홍이되제바디 아니 용수 규발에 라마다 니수메베 랑게 다지 자야 라마다 니수메베 발도지 셈바 이 꿀이야 저 정리 깨거이 말에.
After the light radiates out and then then comes back, it is reabsorbed into the Vajra and the Hum, and the Vajra and Hum are transformed into Vajrasattva, who is inseparable from your root guru.
예 가자 쉬변의 신기요. 유디오마 테솔리아 외도 쉬야데 메스 드네지 개가 가시 수고도 외도 쉬에 왕도 담배는 도지 홍다 잡아 담고 외도 외스기 공부를 버지리 교수상 외도 외스기 공부를 교르네 아니 람드니 디니 라마 도지 세베 남발 교수상 버지 공고로 봐 이윤에 갑딜이야 외슈 매병 왕도 담배이나 아니 도지 홍다 잡아데 테마타도 라마 도지 세베 남발로 봐 교원으로 버지 여버지 하고 있어.
I mentioned yesterday how in the lower classes of Tantra there is not the tradition of visualizing the implements melting into light. If you visualize them melting into light, then the Vajra in whom would melt into a sphere of light, and that sphere of light would then become Vajrasattva. But here there is no such melting into light. Instead, the Vajra and the Hum immediately transform into Vajrasattva.
갑들이야 바지 딱지 깨지기 라마도 됐으면 꿀게야 그렇지 베지 깨지기 이 소소기 생활이야 라마도 됐으면 꾸이 나바 차사로 차트베 이미나 난 되게 고쳐요 인지민지 가르소에 아주 여기 시리 나라래 아니지 가르라 랑게지 우리 베네딩 라마 도저스마 yen데 사실은 예배도 예배 지분지 이기종쇼스 시리마 되는거 뱅에 봤게요만 이미네 레 당보베게 롱올이야 아니 깨지기 잉올라데 차상와지 조버 차트고메 인상 디균센 때네 아니 림기지 센다고 봐 대한 계십니다.
And so here it can become Vajrasattva in an instant. And so if it is possible for for Vajrasattva to instantly appear in his full form immediately, then that is best. And in that case, it is not necessary to meditate as it is described in the actual text in the Nundro, where it says, on a lotus and moon there appears Vajrasattva with one face and two hands and so forth. It is not, in that case, that serves, visualizing him instantaneously serves and is enough, and it is not necessary to recite the words. However, for beginners, it can be difficult to generate the entire visualization in a single instant. And so for them, then it is important to do it gradually.
다드네 데르 도지스마 대양 군도 qarbo 시지 청이 예 도지 쟁아바다 유엔라드네 가르소에 예라 도지 쟁아바 유엔라지 누거기 티분지마 다디세다.
And so we visualize Vajrasattva as being white in color with one face and two arms, holding a five-pronged Vajra in his right hand and a white silver bell in his left.
대양 군도 qarbo 공괴의 균센데 딕딕 정에 딘디라 되네 가르소 배는 아주 지기 바 짱마체 짱마를 채바다 타버를 채바 딘디기 딘디라 공원에 군도 가버체
The reason for visualizing him as white is as the interdependent connection for purifying our misdeeds and obscurations. The meaning is that it symbolizes the cleanliness and the purity.
되네 탑도 시럽 쳔베체도 도지의 티부 남바.
To symbolize means and wisdom, he is holding the Vajra and bell.
다드네 샵 예양 유영공 선배 기록을 쇼바.
His right leg is extended and his left is bent in the posture of a sattva.
니 선배 기록돼야 예양 용공데 예양 용공시 쇼윤 산에 샵 예외의 태봉데 랑기 지주기 다데데 지주기다 부가들이야 샵예외 태봉데 지주기 부가르리고 드네지 공부 유사래.
And so when we visualize him with his right leg extended and his left leg bent, then the big toe you should visualize that the big toe on his right foot touches you in the crown of your head, in the fontanelle.
Today, Chavimina, energy duzim bebjansum, Kuli duzip have you understand, and a bit duzip of Dustan, the Mibachediaway.
If you visualize it in this way, then it will be easier to visualize the nectar flowing into your body.
Nam you does sembegi, Setamang Sede, and dozi Kirung number Yedeva, Mangushudua. The Shab Yegang Yong number Chede, dozi Sembadi, Setan, Jumu Nunur.
Most paintings and depictions of Vajrasattva show him sitting in the Vajra posture. There are very few that show him sitting with his right leg extended and his left bent.
아주 지 티브레 도지스마 샵 예장 용공고 남아체데 지 티브레 이네디 단동텔레 야즈르지 트트야르지 제제는 밀시다 데머니체 아니 베시아레.
So we painted one, and I had the hope that maybe I would be able to paint a better one, and so I haven't shown it to anyone.
When I said Tari, Jumudri Chene, I was right, Dine, the Chumason, that the Kavas came.
I thought it would be good to have that painting this year, but we don't have it, so it's not a problem.
다드네 우저레베 투주제 이제 우저게 레바데 야베 지우르진 투주스 야진 디 랑마디 에너지 잡로르마 chen 지 구드 구이게 나가르줘요 디 잡로르 chen 유산다 구드 is kept there no 드리지 곰 안다나 지 무치 겐다 안 라이제 나사다 나지 가르줘요 다 망보지도와 다들이 리시드 슈가 스케멘도 간다지 망보셔 아래 근데 이게 여비체 드니지 공부하래.
His hair is bound in a top knot. This means the locks of his hair are bound in a knot on the top of his head, and then the remaining hair flows down over his back. It covers his upper back. He is also wearing various jeweled ornaments and robes. There are many different details of the visualization, but it is not necessary to explain them all now. And so, what is the tantra that this form of Vajrasattva, with this sort of face and appearance, what is the tantra that this comes from?
다디 내주르규 시규 난주르규 티닌도 베사지 내주르규 지아래 내주르규 지아래 다 디나를 순하레스 데네 다 덴초 성 덴초 게도르기 시규 선부터 시규 선부터 나로래야 딘 덴요레 순샤 다 데네 야가르기 다 출신세는 저도 개발선은 저도 딱 간다 디 잠배 차변제베 빈드된 잠배 차변제베 상와치 쳐 님부겐사죠 님부겐 어다 디 나로래 아니 디 도지세마 가르르다지 셰샤 넘규 드제요 되지 때도 다나신 띵규고 트레리아야 야가 라마 신다지도 디 첸디 정면도 간다 디게 한 도지세메 주도시도 디 셰샤 넘규 꾸이 넘규다 셰다 차 되게 처음으로 디데 저다디 원준 감네 땡남베게 디 지구 지간으로지 또 셰샤 드리르사네 다지 양 참서지 규기 콩 가리에 겨란주 딘데 검대야들 규기 콩 가리에 야가르기 케베기 슝 가르때야 위해서나 다 딘데 지구 저 미대야 위해서 정도 셰마도베 도스 망셔야데 도스 예요 юм데 제베 남바 망보 쉬우도와 안드레인 주스타네 도스임 데다디 지 가르레 얍장게 남바 대암베지 세베 기종라서 다 딘데 남바 쟁기 안 도지스마디르 콩기요사나 이제 딘데지 유서라 삼창도
This form of Vajrasattva is taught in the compilation of thusness, which is a yoga tantra, and it is also taught in the Sambhuta Tantra, that is an explanatory tantra about Chakrasamvara and Hevajra. Likewise, there is an Indian Mahasiddha, you could say, or perhaps a scholar named Jambal Jakpa, and he wrote about this in his treatise, in his text called the Secret Ornament of the Essence. And so, within that treatise, it describes this form of Vajrasattva with the same color, face, and number of arms, and so forth. Likewise, in the Tenjuru, there is another text written by an Indian guru whose name I have forgotten. There's a sadhana for Vajrasattva with the same form, the same number of faces and arms and so forth, as we meditate upon in the Ngundra, in the preliminary practices. And so for that reason, if someone were to challenge you and say, what is the source in the Indian texts? What is the source of this Vajrasattva that we meditate upon? I think we have something that we can show them. Otherwise, there are often many different forms of often we visualize Vajrasattva with a consort, and I think so I think it is important that we can show that there is a source in the Indian texts for this for the solitary male figure.
잠배 잡았어야지 양을 빈든 잠배 잡았어야지 지당기 띵규르 트레리아 저동기 남세 상악 다做的 라메르와 라메기 저동기 남세 망고지요 저동기 넘버 7방 저동기这些 망고슈지 온디야래 네 이나 디나네 잠배 잡았디 네 개체르지 세만으로 지대하르지 그래서 까만바 정중도지기 탐식 야수사지 숑지야르다 조디 상악 탐식디수 저 저동라서베 상악 라메기 저동다 디수 탐식 야수 어디디 탐식 야수디 망체데 디나 송대야 남샤 망체데 로벤 잠배 잡았디 리리니리 마도 리리니리지 마도베 망체데 로벤 잠배 잡벤제베 저동 남시에텔라 공주원제바 리즈레 다나 신기 제름치에게 다 저동기 남시에 아래 되게 디주나네 잠배 차와디 자치부즈는 유스래 되네 사자베 지중 고만 남에 난세 되네 잡아 연전이自动了去不帮啥子熊给他全部就要的那电脑了呀那的电究出来的呗自动的那些的说他头发在你说几看出来你说讲啊出现的存在呗来不来要的呢讲啊出现的是在吧因为提送的送啊说的送要的但因为呢马上个那就才嘛都是自己要的这需要
Now, this Indian scholar, Jampal Dakpa, wrote a treatise on a presentation of the root downfalls. There are many different presentations on the root downfalls in the Tenjur, and they primarily deal with the root downfalls in the Unexcelled Yoga Tantra. Among these different treatises, the one by Jampal Dakpa is considered the most important and authoritative. The third Karmapa, Rangjung Dorje, wrote a treatise on the downfalls called The Ocean of Samaya, in which he discussed the root downfalls of the secret mantra of Vajrayana. And within this, most of his discussion comes directly from Jampal Dakpa, except for maybe a few points here and there. Almost all of his discussion is based upon Jampal Dakpa's. Likewise, Tsongkhapa wrote an explanation of the root downfalls that also is based upon Jampal Dakpa's explanation. There was a great Sakya master named Dakpa Gyaltsen who wrote a treatise called Eliminating Misconceptions about Root Downfalls, in which he raised the doubt that perhaps many of the root downfalls discussed in the Tenjur were not actually written by Indian Panditas, but most scholars consider Jampal Dakpa's treatise to be valid and authoritative.
다른 데도 지 가르쳐요. 다들 내려비지만도 다 이제 신다게 쉬하면서 수도 어다 간다 듣는 전에 다 듣는 마무티 지 공다 치료 쉬빈다 버지 정면도 something도 다 간다랑 언더리 지 도스음 검대 지하디 믹스에게 가지고 때 개심으로 지 내가 가장 공도 쉬빈는 시래 아 처음으로 상하 냠레 체링이 둘이 차대게 인두산에 디윤전데네 지 상하 탐지사야데 에너지 에 분보도 부지라 아니다 지 가르에 탐에베 뉴시 개와 에너지 데버 딘지 슈보이나 분보도 부지래 탐에베 뉴시 개와 탐에베 딘진 루기야입니다. 다 가르쳐요. 탐지지 규모더고 가난 탐지 규모더고 근데 차 된데 뉴시게 모두체 딘진도 쇼부입니다. 다 대한베지 상하게 니동 차로 그래서 송도 다 대하고 싶지 르바다 오늘지나 드린 뉴스안에 디준zel 데네 상하게 니동도 주베 시라서 쉬어라서 드린 뉴스안에 제신 니마 제신도 지금 소 니소수 니동 중앙에 배고베다 계속 차대어라 조지 반에 어디샤게 고란이야지 투담 자매도 남대야게 신기 전주 최대죠 신기 전주 최대는 지 남야라서 된 남제 니마 다와르시 그리고 샤종는 거래 샤종나 동화의 샤다면 저번 제베인스 동화다 샤게 니동 가라요벤 다다다다 봐 튠즈에 넘어고도 봐 니동 담제 봐 장제 아니 아직 드링기 니동 사샤보다 선이 무드 샤종 마셔비치 냠도 타데부터 잡는 거 말았어. 드린주사 조제반데 어디셔도 비딘데 샤과 맞으다 버지 다 까마르를 베지 제고 한럽지도 와. 다이네 까마르를 해데 아주 갈아 가고 싶지로 와. 드린주사네 딱 간다라 남주 라마 고만 남버 쓰기. 에너지 튠식이 냠네. 능거 알아서 개체미 튠죽이 냠네. 튠식이 냠네. 능거. 디디스 가라서나 지고 튠즈 능홍려야 진 년부 시베 관하다. 니동 가르이네야 반 장셔 주사네 에너고 답되시죠 로되시죠 근데 주사네 디균젠데네 다디 계셔보시래.
We will continue with the discussion of the visualization this afternoon. Now, as I said yesterday, this meditation and recitation, the Vajrasattva practice, is especially important for us. For all of us, we are practitioners of the secret mantra Vajrayana. And so it is important for us to keep the samayas, the secret mantra. As I said yesterday, if we have even a jug, a water jug or a pitcher, and we visualize that and we think of it as an ordinary thing, if we grasp it as being real and consider it to be an ordinary thing, then this is to not see it with pure perception. This is not seeing it as being illusory. And so this is a wrong or a fault in the secret mantra Vajrayana. But this is very difficult for us. And so in that way, it is very important for us to try our best to purify all the faults and downfalls of the secret mantra Vajrasamayana. It is important for us to do this every single day. For example, the Lord Atisha, when he came to Tibet, did not have many possessions, but he did have a stupa made of wood that he brought with him everywhere he went. And everywhere he went, he would perform a confession ritual in front of this and confess all of the wrongs and violations of Samaya that he had done. He would do this because it was considered very important to confess the violations within the time frame of the session that you are in. Because if you don't do them, if you don't confess them immediately, if you don't confess today's and they remain unconfessed until tomorrow, that is not acceptable. So if Atisha felt that he should do this himself every day, then we probably should be doing this every single minute. But it is difficult to do that. And so for that reason, the great masters of the past have talked about doing the practices of the 4 sessions, doing the confession practice in each of the 4 sessions. And the reason for this is that it is said that if we are able to apply the antidote for the misdeeds and downfalls within the period of a session, then we will be able to purify them easily. And so for that reason, it is important for us to confess them and purify them each session.
다드네 디토래야 단동 가르쳐 가지고 지 단데 존데 만체장 아주 오다지 까만 감상기 가지고 이제 주긴 좀 망보지 만체 차리어래 안드리 뉴스단에 에너지 바데 두스미케만 내 손데 양아르비도지 예체 발라 에너지 거유기 뭐지 템바디 가르쳐다지 다 탐식래 세레메 안드리지기 가르쳐다 라로기 탐식래 세레메 안드리지기 딱가다 유바 츠마메바 에너지 세르기 팅와도 다들지 정말 다이네 데벨로 가시에 나로래야 땅아주지 니주만 오십시 나를 중용매버서나 버지 죽었다 나를 중용매버들 니주 탑도고 아주지 까만감상기 주균들이야 간다라 다 바지 심었으나 다 충분해 다디 영어야 돼 조조데 러룩 탐식 야보마소 지 소수에게 따지기다고 되는지 영어를 도지다 리기다고 슈디야 땡아주 말셈치 대바 가르다지 다 제바선한다 리르체 안디지 안다나시 템바드 조지기 되려야 아주 삼바 야게 못도지 안지 내금 게지 이제 되다 중자로 가셔질이야 계심을 통제 안디지 도하는 아주리야 드리지 영과 호랑 야스 자와토야 돼야 어제 라로 탐지 안 체로 탐지 안 되들이 아버지 뭐 좋은데 그래 김선 된다 좋은데 근데 인주산에 안다리 아주 도시 sem에 검대 차디 땅 아주 약한 도시 sem에 검대 쳐면다 디지 아주 네발에 통해 안 도시 sem에 검대 쳐제 안다다 나 드리 인주산에 라버도 달러도 재미나 아니 갑지 샤마르무치에 공부도 쉐브레 드인비산 딘제기 다 고랑 공개했다 구지나로래야 다 잡은 남자들 지 가르쳐 담는 방법이 좋으래 다 이면 저 상황으로 지금 대변이 주접지래 초진에 갈디 미지 고데 가르쳐다 지디지 도스지 삼담이네 나랑 팬도를 좋은고 아니 탐지 캠바 샤마를 군지 당보 아니 잡았으니 내 송디 군지 마베리니야 때마든 저에 돼 라버치장 라버도 주기가마 감상 템발이야 되네 거진 쉐도 매베던 일을 또 차대야 드린 주사 디균전 되네 디주기 잡아도 남달라 삼당바이나 안다데기 샤마름지 잡아 남달 중세 말릭 번더버정 아주 통바이네야 텔레야지 가르쳐 봐지 아주 뇌네 지 삼로 동메트 버르 개체가 많아서 샤마르 고고마디지 랍싱기 거진던 지진디 소라 삼당바이나 데데다 직 파지 아주 저 삼당 토버를 저 파지 인지게다 마소는 저 forgive understanding 채토버지 다 드리지 채토고 매비나 아주 직 최배 수수네 초스게요 만에 근데 인디사 디균zel 되네 드제기 양지 아주다 탐지를 냠차 탐지를 세망 수지 여배상 근데 그 상황을 언들이 참에 다바체송 삼바로 다바치야 민주 잡고체 드리지 동의
Almost all of us gathered here are in the Dharma tradition of the Karma Kamsa. And from the first Karmapa Dusum Khenpa until the 16th Karmapa Rangjung Ripe Dorje, in the teachings of the Kagyu lineage, there was never any tarnish or stain on the samaya. There was never any blemish on the connection, the samaya connection between masters and students. It was like a string of gold. But in the last few years, for whatever reason, there have been various situations that have occurred, various obstacles that have occurred in situations and tarnishes on the lineage of the Karma Kansa. And the reason for this is that the samaya between masters and disciples has not been pure. We have not remembered the master of the Lord of the Families, Rangjung Ripe Dorje. We have not recalled that he is present. We've forgotten that, and because of that, these situations have occurred. There have been some temporary situations that have happened. We've not been able to see past them. We think of them as being important, and then because of that, we've had the blemishes on the samaya connection between the masters and the disciples, between the Dharma friends. And so, for that reason, it is important for us to do this Vajrasattva meditation as well as we can, to really see our faults as being faults and to confess them, and thus it is important to do this Vajrasattva practice. Particularly in this past year, when the all-knowing Shama Rinpoche has passed away. He did many different things in his lifetime, and we see them in many different ways. But in one aspect, I think, if we think about it in this way, it is beneficial. We think that from the first all-knowing Shama Rinpoche, Drapa Sengye, onward, there have been many incarnations of the Shama Rinpoches who've done amazing things for the benefits of Buddhism in general, and great things, and have been shown great kindness to the teachings of the Karma Kamsan lineage in perspective. And so, if we think about their example and their biographies and life stories, then there may be a few things about this Shama Rinpoche that we may think are not that we may think of as not okay, but we don't need to just think about this one. We need to look at the whole line of the Shamas and try to forgive and understand. If we are not able to be forgiving and understanding, then there's no point in us pretending to be Dharma practitioners. And so it is important for us we all have a lot of Samaya connections, and it is important for us to have the pure perception and try to purify ourselves as much as we can.
야 공원남기 고들이야 나신기 나들이 그 탐지를 셀레메와 나들이 유바 름부치 가서 나들이 미님 양반매바 아 지식이 바로 네트워크 나들이 참에 통면 난과도 계주물에 다지 주주 담바가 유 담바사디 무기다 유바르도 차대야래 드린주산에다 무기기 땜범해야지. 탐식 땜범해야 차비입니다. 다 되나 땜배 냠송하다. 땜배 윤체. 지부 차대요. 드린주산에 대대신도 토리야 샤나한테 계준으로 차대요. 알아? 대양 주제 누버군이기. 라마라 신제롱 록다마게나 지름 주고인 라메 간데 제바 나나에 저 라마 댄사에 슈글라야 제바 남들 간지 나비네야 수수응에네 로다 마게베체 아니 소소로 고야한테 가르고 그러잖아 나 간다르지 가서에 풍회 정진에 만난 신기 풍회게 매도 네 지주 렌주상 코랑 고야한테 렌거면 코랑 먹어야 참막힌 줄 말아 어디들이 인도상 하나도 고야들 수수 랭카도체 로다마게 지들 세베는 실업 줄은 죽어래 최저 낭편수임이나 규랑게 쿨나 담시 민게와 최저 낭편수 때때 녀들 중빈 당에 교인이 다당 아람 지마 송삼네 수수 랑교인디 베 콘네 된투버들 충분입니다 야 랑교 가시 랑교 매상서를 된도 랑교 요ar다 가다 교인지요 디콘은 된도버를 충분입니다. 아니 담즈민게와 인스트를 송아들이 인도사 대교산 참여에게 대대신도 도르샤고야 돼. 개념으로 해서 정도.
And so it is important that in the future, the teachings of the practice lineage can be just as they were in the past, without any tarnish or any blemish. And so it is important for us to make the aspiration that the teachings of the practice lineage may remain without waning, without declining until the end of time. And so the Kagyu tradition, the Kagyu teachings are a lineage of devotion. And so if our devotion is not stable, if our samaya is not stable, then in actuality the teachings have weakened, the teachings have been lost. And so it is important for us to understand this. It is as the great master Drukpa Kunle said, no matter what the Lama does, if we do not have wrong views about it, then we have received the blessings. And so no matter what the Guru may do, whatever behavior they may do, we should not have any wrong view about it. We need to remember what it is that we need. We need to be like bees taking nectar from a flower. When the bee visits a flower, the bee only takes the nectar that it needs. It does not take what it does not take. And so we need to be in the same way, and we just need to receive the blessings. Especially when among Dharma friends we have problems that arise. If we accept the blame and say, oh, I admit it, this problem is mine. This is my fault. I am the one to blame. Then there is no fault to the samaya. For it's often the case that the fault is our own, and if we accept the blame upon ourselves, then there is no breaking the samaya. So I think that it is important for us to understand this.
Sanji Nyandi Zilwa Ranza Troy